I'm pausing here, folks. You're understanding the dynamics shifting completely right underneath Trump's feet. He's got nothing to do here. No cards, no charisma, no excuse for attacking America and the world at warp speed either. Our government knew the COVID shots were neither safe nor effective, yet unleashed a global propaganda campaign to coerce the public into getting it. I'm sure those of you listening behind the woodshed, or those of you who did your own study, understand that was known a long time ago. What you're seeing is the news finally coming around to telling everybody. Top federal health officials actively took steps to delay warning the public for months in 2021 after the potential risks of heart-related complications from receiving mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, a scathing interim report from Senator Ron Johnson's office alleges. Watch the bouncing ball here, folks. Be careful of what they're admitting and then understand what they're not. Starting in February of 2021, federal health agencies had been alerted to large reports of myocarditis in young people who received the Pfizer vaccine but waited until late June that year to adjust the vaccine labels to make them side effects known. Myocarditis is an inflammatory condition of the heart muscle, while pericarditis entails inflammation of the lining sac around the heart. Myocarditis is a combination of two ailments. Quote, even though CDC and FDA officials were well aware of the risk of myocarditis following a COVID-19 vaccination, the Biden administration opted to withhold issuing a formal warning to the public for months about the safety concerns jeopardizing the health of young Americans, the 54-page interim report said. His report explained that some available data raised concerns about myocarditis in early 2021, but top health brass really began examining the matter after February 28, 2021, when an Israeli Ministry of Health official attempted to contact the CDC and Food and Drug Administration about 40 cases of myocarditis and other health-related ailments in young people from Pfizer vaccine. So you hear the propaganda going all this time, every paragraph of what it is. I've been quiet about telling you, highlighting it. I'm just going to do it right there to call your attention. The propaganda continues despite an explosion, despite a disclosure. There's still a lie going on, a bunch of them actually. At the time, Israel had a much higher vaccination rate than the U.S., the report noted. About 10 days later, an FDA official drafted a response noting that limitations of passive surveillance and incomplete data makes it challenging to assess causation. U.S. health officials requested more data from the Israelis. By mid-April, a Defense Department contractor involved with Pentagon's work on immunization delivered a presentation to the COVID-19 Vaccine Safety Technical Working Group that concluded, quote, there is a high likelihood that cardiac symptoms following COVID-19 vaccination represent a hypersensitivity eosinophilic myocarditis. Can I read the first part of that again? And you tell me why these folks are involved. But also, if you've listened long enough behind the woodshed, didn't I mention this going into 2020? That Sasha Lakopova's research proved out later. By mid-April, a Defense Department contractor involved with the Pentagon's work on immunization delivered a presentation to the COVID Vaccine Safety Technical Working Group. What were they being involved with? Well, we know what it is now. Not many people understood what was hitting them right between the eyes and what to do about it. Anybody listening behind the woodshed got it straight up ahead of that whole problem. And on the heels of that report, and that's just an interim report, and remember, they just pointed out one of the ailments, the two-part ailment on that as well, and they want to suggest and continue suggesting Ron Johnson is not saying it's not a vaccine. So understand that. So on the heels of that report comes FDA expands COVID vaccine warning about heart side effect risk for young males. The Food and Drug Administration is telling Pfizer and Moderna to expand warning labels on their COVID-19 vaccines about the risk of possible heart injury side effects linked to mRNA shots, primarily teen boys and young men, citing findings from a study published last year in new agency data. Orders to expand the warnings were posted Wednesday by the FDA in letters dated April 17th to Pfizer and BioNTech about their Comirnaty vaccine and Moderna about its Spikevax. Now, I'm going to jump past the FDA propaganda. As I just said, Ron Johnson himself is still promoting that it's a vaccine, still promoting that maybe that's the only thing, the only evidence they have is myocarditis, and we know it's so much worse. They're still promoting it's safe and effective, except for that. So I'm going to jump past, in this article, the FDA propaganda wants to sell it hard all the time, to read similar to what the study described. The FDA's new warning also says that the heart MRI findings showed improvement over time in most people. Most? Is this Russian roulette as well? Quote, it is not known if these heart MRI findings might predict long-term heart effects of myocarditis. The studies are underway to find out if they are long-term heart effects in people who have had myocarditis after receiving an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine, the FDA said. But they said they're also safe and effective. Can you imagine all the things that are hidden when they don't suffer the scrutiny that the great COVID swindle is causing to these mRNA bioweapons? Notice no one, not even the Congressional Committee or Congressman Ron Johnson, is identifying these substances as bioweapons. Not one word. So that much is also a continuing cover-up. So now you can see how they do the cat box cover-up right in plain sight. There's no non-fraudulently demonstrated non-military beneficial use, therefore, as a matter of law, 50 U.S.C. and 18 U.S.C. 175. By those, they are prohibited bioweapons with criminal penalties. But with the cat box cover-up, there's no accountability. No, the FDA propaganda jumped over is the FDA continuing to sell these bioweapons to the population, which I'm not going to help promote by reading about it. You can go in. Feel free to go in to get that link, read this article, see what they do, maybe see how they do this to us. Become informed on the technique, how this works out, how they continue to attack us. It sounds like Ron Johnson's doing us a favor. And at some point I can agree. There's not very many people that actually see the truth. They cannot see it. They're not wired to see it anymore. They may not be intelligent enough to see it. I don't know anymore. How do you not see this? Now, I'm talking after the fact now. I'm not talking, oh, we knew it, oh, you could see it, we're adverse, all that, whatever. I'm talking about looking at this thing and saying, well, why are they only talking about certain things when we know the evidence also showing a whole lot more problems? And I'm not going to go through the list. I mean, it's on and on and on. But what did we hear about those originally? I did the reports of the initial trials and studies that were going on by the companies themselves. Way, way early on. And one of the other consequences that we certainly don't see or talked about amongst all the others, and this is in vaccines so-called generally, and I want to reiterate, I've said it only a couple times, those of you that have read the local communicable disease law and think it through step by step logically, it makes no logical sense, even though that's what you rely on to protect yourself. For instance, why would you, and you're not supposed to, give a vaccine while you're suffering the infectious agent that was demonstrated in you, if it is? Why would you do that? It makes no sense. How is that going to stop you from getting it? It's not. It makes no sense. This is the other fraud. I talked about this a couple times, just mentioned it. But because it's so confusing to people to just do the black and white just to protect themselves in the initial, I didn't want to throw too much of this other information on top of the heap of something that's already not understood. But the whole process doesn't make any sense logically. But legally, you had to follow the process because that's what could protect you. But there's other things coming down. When you understand this illogical condition that the so-called medical profession has created, fabricated, wrapped around even what they would call a vaccine, and it makes no sense. Then you start understanding it's just an expansion of what the military did and why they were working through contracts of demonstrations for something that didn't really exist, but it was the jab was the vector, it was the infectious agent, as I told you it would and predicted, and it turns out to be.